Welcome to Planet Zebes. You're here on a contract from the Galactic Federation to exterminate the alien Metroid race and shut down the space pirate operations on the planet. Hey, now don't look at me like that, hotshot. We're playing on the NES. You were supposed to read the manual before booting up the game. Anyway, you're gonna have to defeat Ridley, the space pirate commander. He's also the one who kinda murdered your entire family, so keep that in mind. And Kraid, who's got these belly button missile thingies. Better euthanize the poor thing. Whatever, you'll figure it out. After that, you can defeat Mother Brain and escape the planet before it detonates. And that's when you'll find out that you're actually a woman. Full disclosure, I've played this game ported on more consoles than I can even remember. So for this video, I'll be playing it on the Switch NES library, since that's probably the easiest way for you to play it right now. The save state feature on the Switch Online version will fix a tremendous amount of headache this game can give you, so feel very lucky that you have it. Old farts like me had to play this bad boy in one go. This game hates you. It wants you lost, it wants you confused, it wants you afraid, but most of all, it wants you dead. Make darn sure you never die though. No matter how far you get, you'll only respawn with 30 hit points in one energy tank. In other words, practically dead. You'll more than likely take more damage than you'll heal back from defeating enemies and collecting their pickups, so you're better off just sucking it up and starting the whole game over again. I'm not exaggerating. It's a brutal NES game, but it's still amazing. The gameplay defined a new genre, the music iconically went for atmosphere rather than recognizability, and the sheer size of the map is astounding for the system. Praise it all you like, I'm the one with the controller, and I'm gonna show you all the gruesome problems with this abomination before I'm done. But I love this game!
I hate this game!
I love this game!
Hate!
You're dropped into a massive 2D open world and set loose platforming and shooting enemies while discovering power-ups that will help you progress deeper into the planet. But almost never do those enemies line up with your crappy power beam. They're either too short to be hit, or they fly at such an annoying arc that shooting above you isn't helpful either. And remember, you can only shoot straight forward or straight up. Something feels truly alien about playing this game with the creepy score and the art style, along with the fear and isolation you get just from exploring. You really feel like you don't belong here, I'll give you that. But that bothers me when you need to bomb literally every single tile to see if it's secretly hiding a tunnel or a pickup. The bosses are so different and creepy compared to other games at the time. Kraid is particularly tough with the spikes and fire he shoots chaotically around the room. With the wrong gear, you could end your run right there in that room. Ridley, however, is a complete joke, ironically. If you stand as close to him as possible on the lower platform, he can't possibly hit you while you go to town on his balls. That didn't come out right. But once they're dead, you'll be able to enter Turian, where Metroids are a very real threat, and a potential death sentence without the right knowledge of Ice Beam first and 5 missiles after. And that's if you didn't let them latch onto your head like an angry octopus. Morph Ball Bomb immediately if that ever happens, or they'll suck your energy dry in seconds. Metroids are insane alone, but if you're in a room with 2, much less 3, you must lure them away and deal with them one at a time or you're doomed. Bombing them off takes a few tries and doesn't always work out, especially with multiple Metroids on you. But if you can make it through Turian alive, you'll get a chance to end it all by defeating Mother Brain. This super weird boss fights you with the environment as you blast away brain matter to get a clear shot at the boss. This is the absolute worst part of the game to die in. It's all up to whether you found enough missiles and energy tanks to simply survive the onslaught from all directions as you desperately try to scramble brain spaghetti. If you die, there is a password system to help you recover your status, since there was no save feature back then. But as we mentioned before, your energy tanks will be practically empty, so it's not really worth it. Beating this game is a serious challenge, but I recommend you try it with a map, a plan, and without ever dying once. But for what it is, this game is an amazing achievement for the NES, and for the medium in general. Too many times will you get knocked into weirdly sticky lava pits, hit by enemies glitching through doors after you, and trapped in awkwardly infuriating climbing segments to justify the hopelessness you'll feel in Turian, where it'll all spiral down as you get wombo-comboed to death. Did I mention on the Switch NES library that you can use save states? The environments and enemy design all change to new palettes as you explore to reflect the new biomes that you've discovered, all transitioning seamlessly with no loading screens. The massive colorful map does impress me, but some sprite work looks a little off-putting. It's supposed to look that way. Remember, they were going for an isolation-themed horror exploration game. With limited colors on each screen, the way they get around loading screens is really impressive. Some creatures still just give me the willies. Speaking of willies, when are we gonna talk about that ending surprise where we find out Samus was a woman the entire time? Based on your completion time, Samus would remove more of her power suit, ranging from taking off just her helmet to practically stripping down to her 8-bit underwear. She's attributed to being the first female lead character in a game, paving the way for tough female characters like Lara Croft or Chun-Li. Women at the time were just helpless, captured princesses, or sideline eye candy, until Samus came around. They couldn't have made her any more opposite of a dainty showgirl. She single-handedly infiltrated this entire planet alone to defeat an alien bioweapon species and the galactic threat controlling them. Yikes. The fact that Smash Bros. Doesn't include her original Zero Suit colors as a palette swap is nothing less than a crime against gaming history. Bring back pink jumpsuits and green hair! Perfection. Okay, so Samus is a bounty hunter assigned to— You already went over this. Okay, well, other than what little I said before, there's not much story in this game. The story is what you make of it while exploring the caverns of Zebes alone. The ending does give you some text congratulating you, but also warning you that the galaxy could still be invaded by other Metroid. Nice! Even after all that crap you go through, you still haven't eliminated them all. Anything else you want to add before moving on, Bomb? Okay, so the other Metroid are on their home planet SR388, where she's gonna be going in Metroid 2, but they're also secretly under Galactic Federation control on a bioweapon development ship. As for the bosses, nobody actually canonically died here either. Ridley, Kraid, and Mother Brain will all return in Super Metroid, but had you still not stopped their control here, then later on you wouldn't have been able to— As I mentioned before, the music was intentionally composed in a way that would make the player feel the atmosphere of the environment, rather than hum to catchy 8-bit tunes. Some tracks, however, don't fit that very well, and ended up being really catchy. But others are creepy tracks that when I hear them, I immediately feel like I'm suddenly standing in that very terrifying place where it played. It's unsettling to say the least, but I guess that's what they were going for. So Bomb, how did you react to this track? Oh god, no, 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 no. I need to leave. I want to get out. Make it stop. Effective. If you're into retro games, then you've got to try this incredibly challenging classic that literally created the Metroidvania genre. Do you have enough reasons to hate yourself? If not, this game will hate you. Metroid is probably my favorite gaming franchise ever, so it's not a surprise that I find the original to be an amazing work of art. Compare the original NES Zelda to the SNES Link to the Past for just 1 second. NES Metroid is just as hardcore and cryptic, if not substantially more so, when compared to Super Metroid. Seriously, play it. Pretend this game never existed. I love it! It's so bad! The positive gamer in me adores the original Metroid for the NES, giving it a glowing 9 out of 10. I'm not holding the hardware limitations of the time accountable for the unfair standards of today. The amazingly creative and magnificent world built here still blows my mind. The story, characters, environments, and enemies are all solid and definitely worth memorializing. The critical gamer in me detests the original Metroid for its brutal wonkiness, giving it a shallow 3 out of 10. I would not recommend you pick it up unless you're prepared for a bad time. The game has not aged well compared to its sequels, and in this day and age, there's simply no reason to play it anymore outside of some crazy challenges. Are we allowed to disagree this much? I want to give this game a hug tightly around its neck. Well, what do you think? Tell us how your positive and critical sides rate the original Metroid in the comments below. If you get too swept up in the good or the bad of a game to fully appreciate it for what it really is, then you're just... Hold on, what was it? Beating the meat, spanking the monkey, waxing the carrot, tugging the slug, teeing off, jerking, playing with yourself. Hamster, there's a new Pokemon game coming out, and it's not being developed by Game Freak! Wait, but why? This seems so unnecessary. How can we trust any other developer with the Pokemon IP? Hamster, there's a new Pokemon game coming out, and it's not being developed by Game Freak! Oh, thank God, it's about time! Nobody could possibly screw it up any more than Game Freak, that's for damn sure. Actually, I was lying. It's just Game Freak again. This time they're selling overpriced and underdeveloped DLC in cloud storage. I feel violated. I think my anus is bleeding. Remember back in 2004 when we actually did get a mainline Pokemon game that was not made by Game Freak? Those were the days. Hold on, what was that game? Rumble? Mystery Dungeon? Coliseum. Though I've played this game many times, I stupidly sold it and the Jirachi bonus disc to GameStop for a couple bucks back in the day when Gen 4 hit. Yeah, I'm not proud of that. But it's hard to explain to younger generations what the dread of Gen 4 felt like. You played Metal Gear Solid 5? Amazing game. Earlier ones are great too. Outstanding even. And then Kojima left, and they made Metal Gear Survive. Never mind, it felt exactly like that. Anyway, I don't physically own this game anymore, but I'll gladly hold a GameCube controller and pretend that I'm playing it for your amusement. Don't ruin the illusion! The developers at Genius Sonority weren't screwing around when they came up with this title. It could have been a simple next-gen Pokemon Stadium, but they went above and beyond with innovative ideas that should have changed the series for the better. It's hard to put a finger on why exactly this game feels so much better than the others. I'ma put my fingers all over this. Just don't lick the inside of the GameCube again. I keep getting disc read errors every time he touches the laser. I'm going to list just a few of the huge changes to the formula in this game. First off, there are absolutely no gym badges to obtain holding your hand around the region. The game's story direction feels very organic as you explore a disheveled and disenfranchised world, bouncing from outposts to ghetto-filled slums. Very unlike Pokemon. Secondly, there is no grass to obtain wild Pokemon. Instead, you have to literally steal back Pokemon corrupted by a purple shadow aura from the bad guys to add them to your team. You'll also need to battle with these shadow Pokemon to cure them of their purpley affliction, and with their various unique hindering mechanics, this can be a real challenge. Thirdly, every single battle in the game is a double battle. You will enter battle traditionally with trainers and thugs around the world, and they are your only source of XP, making your choices of who to raise and who to abandon in the box crucial. You can even fail to catch a good number of shadow Pokemon, so you better make sure you save often if you hope to snag them all and get the best team for the game. Your starting Pokemon are the fittingly delinquent duo of Umbreon and Espeon, both of which are pre-trained up to level 25. Now this starts the game off with a bang, as you're already an established trainer in a world full of higher level trainers to keep the challenge higher and more satisfying than simply starting at level 5 babies to over-leveled monstrosities like in other Pokemon games. Even though it was on the GameCube, you could still even trade with your GBA games and play with your favorites in full 3D. I still have this otherwise completely useless cable. Look at it! There's even a series of 100 battles with breaks on the 10s that is a serious challenge. It was a blast playing through them and definitely gives the game a ton of extra hours and replayability. Why didn't Game Freak catch on to any of these amazing ideas? They were all risky moves to try out, but ended up all being super interesting and created a far more impressive and innovative product in the end. Somebody's gotta keep that anus of yours bleeding, Hamster. And they're gonna milk that back door for all it's worth. Taken for what it is on the GameCube, this game still looks amazing. There's a reason people were comparing Game Freak's Sword and Shield cash grab to this 16-year-old hidden gem. Hint, it's because Colosseum aged like wine and Swish aged like milk. Now it is important to mention that some models and animations from Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon were ported from the N64. Now that's disgusting. But the ported Pokemon weren't given new looks because the game doesn't give you access to them to begin with. You need to trade them in manually in order to see them all. Look at the cable. Look at it! So the vanilla game looks and animates like butter. Outside of some quirky animations in the overworld, battles are really impressive looking. However, slow paced due to the animations. Looks wise and gameplay wise, honestly, this is the home console Pokemon game we always wanted. It just wasn't made by Game Freak, which we now know was nothing less than divine intervention. You might want to sit down for a second here because I'm about to say something that will blow your mind into confetti spaghetti. This Pokemon game has a cool story and premise. What the That's not possible! You play as Wes, a rogue anti-hero defecting from an evil group Team Snag'em. You start the game by straight up robbing them of their most prized possession, a mecha cyborg arm enhancement created to steal Pokemon directly from their trainers. Wes then blows up the whole facility while escaping into the open desert on his freaking amazing one-wheeled hover motorcycle. Hold on, was this Terminator? RoboCop? Blade Runner? Or did you by chance happen to say Pokemon? You meet up with a girl named Rui after saving her from being kidnapped by two thugs. Rui can identify shadow Pokemon just by looking at them, so the two of you set off to thwart Team Snag'em's operations and bring light to the whole desolate, hopeless world you're inhabiting. Hey Game Freak, I'd like to introduce you to a little thing called Good Ideas. You take on several shady thug groups and underground operations while exploring the various locales before culminating in a massive battle with all the leaders of Team Snag'em in their newly established Colosseum. The sad thing is, this isn't even that in-depth. It's just amazing when compared to how pitiful Pokemon game stories and settings usually are. This whole video wasn't intended to be a giant slam at Game Freak, but Genius Sonority upstaged them over 16 years early with limited hardware and far less budget. Effort is a good thing sometimes. You should try it. If you're tired of being treated like a child in Pokemon games, try this one to be treated like a hardcore rogue villain. Are you sick of all the pitifully easy HM hand-holding babies first RPG-esque Pokemon games? Then you either love this game or haven't played it yet. The difficulty of this game may be a turnoff to some, but it's become more of an acquired taste as the game actually becomes a challenging RPG. Pokemon, but no Game Freak. The positive gamer in me had a blast with Pokemon Colosseum, giving it an impressive 9 out of 10. I can't believe I'm rating so high on a Pokemon game of all things, but the sheer amount of breakthroughs this game created for the series are staggering, helping it to recapture and delight audiences new and old. The critical gamer in me reluctantly gives Pokemon Colosseum a 7 out of 10 for still having its fair share of problems like long animation wait times and occasionally confusing where do I go moments. But by no means is it a bad game. Its innovations and brilliant reimaginings helped change the Pokemon formula for the better. Or at least it should have. If you want to see more of Pokemon Colosseum, I did an entire randomized Let's Play on my channel, shameless plug. Yeah, as if this game wasn't hard enough. That sure cranked up the difficulty alright with our terrible luck. But if you think this game's not worth playing just because Game Freak isn't involved, then you're just playing with yourself. Hey Hamster, check it out! Shadow of the Colossus is free on PS Plus this month. You mean the HD remake that just came out in 2018? Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about this game. We've gotta play it! Lucky it showed up here for us to play for free. I was thinking of buying it just a couple of months ago. This is so great! This game is trash. Underdeveloped, unplayable, trash. Now come on, you gotta give it a fair analysis here. People give this game overwhelmingly positive reviews. The open world is barren and lifeless. The gameplay is straight out of Goat Simulator. The bland music is hardly perceptible. The story shows a complete lack of effort on all counts. And the graphics, which should have been the focus of a game remade in 2018, look washed out and ported from the PS2 era. We must be missing something. At least Goat Simulator was funny. You're dropped into an open world with a sword that can point you towards your next destination, as well as stab things. It's also fairly useful at stabbing things. But that open world is entirely void of any real interactions whatsoever. There are no NPCs, enemies, side quests, or anything even remotely interesting to find. It only serves as an extremely slow loading bar. You'll point your sword skyward to help direct you towards the next Colossus to defeat. However, the actual directions are usually confusing, sometimes wrong, and always wonky. You'll fumble your way around climbing with horrible jumping and stamina mechanics without any tutorials teaching you how the game works, wishing so badly that this played even halfway as well as Uncharted. The game doesn't even tell you that you also have a bow, which your character isn't even holding, by the way, and you need the bow as early as the second Colossus. Most of the traversing in this game is done on horseback, and I hate to say this too, but this is by far the worst controlling horse in any game I've ever played. Your unresponsive mare is named Agro, pronounced Aro for some reason, which you'll be hearing a lot as you'll be yelling for the dumb animal to come to you constantly. The atrocious camera positioning system is desperately trying to make everything cinematic, which instead is obscuring crucial things you're trying to see, like the direction you're galloping, or in what direction you're about to jump. It feels like this game thinks it's some magnificent, beautiful vista of glowing splendor, and you must acknowledge it. But by trying too hard, it just makes it come across like a demanding, grossly obese teenager who insists on being told she's pretty. But the meat of the game is in fighting the Colossi, right? Well, if you can believe it, they are what make this complete show a true masterclass pain in the can you say that? Your character, the Wanderer, plays with the physics of Goat Simulator. And I'm not saying that as an exaggerated insult. That's honestly the closest comparison I can make of it to any other game. Goat Simulator works because its god-awful controls and ragdoll physics were funny. But when your straight-faced game plays just as terribly, it's just sad. Each Colossus has some poorly scripted and cryptic single method of dealing damage to them. You'll either be fighting the garbage ragdoll controls trying to get something obvious and simple accomplished, or you're fumbling around for what feels like an eternity just trying to figure out the elaborate checklist of events necessary to progress the fight. You'll want a walkthrough for this game, for sure. The less time spent playing it, the better. So, compared to the original, this version looks great. Yes, but the new shots were all edited in post with harsh contrast and vignetting to try and make the new versions look better. That, my friends, is called false advertising. I did find some of the locations shown off in the supposed screenshots and was pretty let down by how washed out and gray everything actually looked. The actual designs of the colossi themselves kinda disappointed me too. They all pretty much look the same. I swear that several of them are exactly the same, as I fought like 3 gorillas and 2 identical lion things. The Wanderer's face is so early 2000s PC game. He looks just like a default avatar who's not reacting to the light correctly. He's awkwardly smooth and he has no facial textures. The most visually pleasing part of this game was the uninstallation screen. This game shoehorns in what little story it has at the very end after beating literally all of the colossi. And even then, it's practically nothing at all. You turn into some weird demon thing from the released spirits of the beasts you killed and fight off some weird shaman people. Then the dead and or sleeping girl you left on the altar from the beginning comes back to life Zelda 2 style. Also, your stupid horse somehow comes back to life after falling down into a ravine and comes back with only a broken leg. Which, by the way, do you realize what a broken leg means for something as large as a horse? They can't freaking move! Like at all! Out of the rest of the game, your only real dialogue comes from some voice in the sky telling you about your next Colossus to fight. However, it's always the same Mad Libs text written in papyrus. It starts with, "Thy next foe is," then cuts to something ignoring any grammar or syntax before ending with, "It lusts for destruction. Thy next foe is 6 hours after a Chipotle burrito. It lusts for destruction." There pretty much is no music until you're practically hanging by your tongue onto a Colossus's ballsack, and even then, it's underwhelming at best. The only real sound you'll repeatedly hear is the Wanderer yelling for Aro! I keep wanting to adjust my volume to hear the music, but then when I hear the guy yell, Aro! I realize that my volume really is on, but this game is just really freaking quiet. In the bad way. Don't think of Breath of the Wild. There's nothing elegant about this steamy pile of goat shit. Aro! If you've played the original Shadow of Colossus, then you should probably know to stay far away from this one too. I'll be frank, I have absolutely nothing good to say about this borderline unplayable waste of time. The most telling moment in this game for me was looking at the percentages of players who acquired trophies for defeating the Colossus. It became a record showing exactly when players got fed up with the game and quit. On PS4, nearly half of all the players stopped after the first Colossus. Only about 30% made it halfway, and only a pitiful 17% had the tenacity to finish this game. So take it from a guy who completed this game for your own amusement, all the way up to the super frustrating Flaming Finger Guns final boss straight out of Sailor Moon. Don't be in that 17%. The positive gamer in me was let down to a colossal degree with Shadow of the Colossus, giving it a gross 3 out of 10. This is the rare game that's so terrible on all counts that the only thing that would make it even remotely impressive is if it were made by just a single person in a week, or created in 30 minutes as an experiment. But no, they were dead serious. And so am I, with a 3. The critical gamer in me is still nursing the stress headache from playing this disgusting stain on the industry, and gives this monstrous failure the 1 out of 10 it justly deserves. There is no joy in Shadow of the Colossus, only frustration, terrible ragdoll controls and physics, a nauseating camera, an unresponsive horse, constant, cryptic, directionless encounters, and a story as unsatisfying as a tall glass of your own urine. Hey, at least you didn't give it a 0, right? It is still an executable file run on a game system, so it technically needs to be able to rank. Believe me, rounding up from that 0 brought me great pain. But what do you think? Are you caught up in the strange delusion that this game is even remotely enjoyable? Or does the thought of this game instigate a migraine? Tell us how your positive and critical sides rate Shadow of the Colossus in the comments below. If you blindly praise a game just because that's the popular thing to say, then you're just playing with yourself. Mother d***er. They are what make this complete split show a true masterclass pain in the grass. Your character, the Wanderer, plays with the physics of ducking Goat Simulator. There's nothing elegant about this steamy pile of goat spit. Then you're just playing with yourself. Mother ducker. Quack! No!
Body but bit but bite the bite the body but bit but boy dot bit but dip but eat but boy dot bit but dip but eat but that boy that boy but do it but do it but eat but dip but that do it but do it but eat but dip but dip but that boy.
Banjo-Kazooie is one of those special games that defines a generation. It feels really weird reviewing it in 2020. I don't know about you, but I just wanted a chance to talk about it and share it with the people who missed out. I never owned an N64 as a kid, as my parents were very anti-video game back then. So I mostly experienced Banjo at friends' and neighbors' houses. They never let me play. I didn't have nice friends. But a year or so back, I got the opportunity to play the game myself after all this time of watching from the sidelines. Just a 28-year-old man playing a kid's game lost from his childhood alone in his basement. Nothing pitiful or depraved to see here. Move along. This game looked so amazing as a kid. But is it really a game all about finding and touching things? It's the lost genre of 3D platforming meeting a collectathon. Some newer games like Super Lucky's Tale and Yooka-Laylee use the same formula. It's easy to write this off as a Super Mario 64 knockoff, but it honestly feels like its own thing. There's so much more to collect, there's crazy transformations, and the worlds let you stay and explore rather than booting you out after finding each Jiggy, much like Mario Odyssey. You'll collect a handful of Jiggies in each world in order to open up new paths in the overworld to find new levels to explore. In each level, you can also find 5 Jinjos for a Jiggy and 100 notes for opening extra overworld doors and 100%ing worlds. But there wasn't enough system memory for the game to remember which notes or Jinjos you found, so if you want a high score, you've got to find them all in one run. For the most part, it's not difficult. However, some levels can get so hard they'll crush your hopes of a perfect game entirely. Rusty Bucket Bay. Collecting all the Jiggies is actually quite fun and relaxing. The game gets intense quickly, however, with the final boss, Gruntilda. After collecting enough Jiggies, you'll open the path to face the evil witch head-on, which is pretty unlike the rest of the game up to this point. Sure, there have been mini-bosses here and there, but nothing this elaborate. I'm gonna say this now. Gruntilda is one of the most breakneck difficult bosses I've ever faced in any video game. The difficulty spike here is laughable. Or at least I hope you'd laugh, because I felt like I was having a brain aneurysm. For the most part, the controls are solid in this game. But against Gruntilda, you'll need to make perfect jumps, dodges, and egg shots in order to even have a chance at winning. It's a long and excruciating battle against the controller and your own sanity. There are so many complicated phases and problematic potential game-ending failure opportunities against Gruntilda, I can't even think of where to begin with them all. But in the end, with enough perseverance and a little bit of luck, you can... Hamster, what are you doing? I gave up. You can't just give up. What about perseverance and luck? I have neither. What I do have is better things to do than give myself a self-induced combo of migraines and carpal tunnel. You were just one more set of shots into the Ginginator from winning, too! There's not enough gold feathers in the world to keep me going. She can have Tootie. Not worth it. Early 3D graphics don't tend to age well, but Rare's fun, cartoony style makes the whole game look and feel alive. Each world has its own set of unique enemies, each fitting the new theme. Plus, all of the Jiggies are creatively hidden in ways that reflect the worlds. There's a lot of thought, time, and effort put into this game. Some worlds look pretty ugly though, with gross color palettes like Clanker's Cavern and Bubble Gloop Swamp. But others like Mumbo's Mountain, Treasure Trove Cove, and Click Clock Wood are all bright and lively. The real aesthetic of this game in general is just strange. Like 90s cartoon strange. Equal parts quirky and off-putting, but equal parts animated and lovable. You need to turn yourself into a pumpkin in order to climb a mansion and flush yourself down a talking toilet to find a Jiggy hidden in a poop-splattered sewer complete with angry green tentacle monsters. The 90s were strange, my friends. You play as Banjo the Bear and Kazooie, his Breegull bird slave stuffed away in his backpack. They're friends, I think. It's a pretty abusive relationship, but so are all 90s cartoon friendships. The witch Gruntilda kidnaps Banjo's little sister Tootie in order to extract her prettiness? Or something like that, after finding out that Tootie has the good looks she wants. It's a fairest of them all story. Gruntilda also speaks entirely in rhyme, even when she mocks you throughout the gameplay in the overworld. Oh, man, we missed that opportunity of making an entire video in rhyme. I assure you we don't have time to make this whole video in rhyme. A video must go up this week, but with no rhymes it'll sound bleak. Purple oranges! The sound effects and music of this game might be the most charming part. The talking noises alone are iconic enough to have kinda invented their own silly way of getting around fully voiced video games to come. I love the soundtrack though. Almost every single track gives the game the perfect feeling it's going for in each world. Don't get ahead of yourself. Some tracks get pretty annoying, but I do agree that the majority are great. I particularly love the themes that get remade based on the situations, kinda like Gruntilda's Lair and Boss theme, and Click Clock Wood and its 4 seasons. Grant Kirkhope is a legend. Anyone else in this game would be lessened. He rhymed! He did it! He did it! I can't believe it, but he did it! There's a good chance if you have an N64, you have already played this charming classic. Is your idea of a fully living world putting eyeballs on everything? This may be one of the most relaxing ways to spend your time on the N64, exploring vibrant worlds and collecting creatively hidden Jiggies. Did you grow up in the 90s? The positive gamer in me recognizes the lost genre cast in cartridge with Banjo-Kazooie, giving it a shiny 9 out of 10. It's really hard to develop a good 3D platformer, with the world requiring tons of fine-tuning and spot-on controls to explore it all. But Banjo-Kazooie absolutely nails it. There's a reason people are still talking about this game. The critical gamer in me had some rough patches with Banjo-Kazooie, but is still willing to give it a moderate 6 out of 10. Some Jiggies are super easy, whereas others can make you pull your hair out. To 100% the game, you probably need a walkthrough to boot. Plus, that insane difficulty spike at the end does hurt my final impression. It is, however, a stunning achievement all around. But we'd like to hear what you know. Let us know your ratings in the comments below. If you think 3D platformers are outdated and not worth developing anymore, then you're just playing with yourself. Hey Hamster, wanna play a game about skipping leg day? What? No! Ring Fit Adventure is keeping me moving enough. That's already 30 minutes a day that I pretend to move as much as a normal person. But this is a fighting game! Think of Punch-Out, but jam-packed full of gimmicky, shoehorned motion controls. Was that supposed to entice me into ripping on it? It's low-hanging fruit, my friend. Challenge accepted. Wow, you weren't kidding! This game is seriously just Punch-Out with awkward, intermittently responsive motion controls. But now that I've got you playing, there's so much more to dig into. There's a Grand Prix mode, a versus, a bunch of online options, and collectibles to unlock. Absolutely none of that changes the fact that the core game is just exactly what I expected. And I expected to be disappointed by how average the game was. Okay, sure, I know that fighting games aren't really your thing, but you've gotta see the appeal in this one. Maybe for the 12-year-old Splatoon-loving audience wanting a colorful, repetitive online game with no real goal. As for me, that's the polar opposite of how I want to spend my free time. Maybe this was a bad idea. We probably shouldn't review this game. We haven't even said the title of the game yet, and I don't even think I need to say any more about it. In Stretchy Appendage Game for the Nintendo Switch, you'll be boxing with stretchy appendages against other freaks with stretchy appendages. Oh, come on, there's more to it than that. In Mike Tyson Skips Leg Day, you can equip different weapons on each of your elastic limbs before each round in order to strategize against your opponent doing the same. I never really found that amounting to much. It's something to mess with for a while, but never really changed the outcome of a match for me. While playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots, you hold the Joy-Cons backwards and use tilting and short punches to control your character. You can even tilt a Joy-Con after throwing a punch to curve the arm mid-thrust, but rarely does this actually ever help you. The motion controls in Down Goes Frazier are acceptably silly for low-level matches and couch play with friends, but are unacceptably unresponsive and intermittent when jovially casual input lag and misreading motions destroy competitive matches. Seriously, don't play motion controls if you're not playing with friends. You'll just have a bad time being hilariously outclassed. You'll also find that in the game Hello Face, My Name is Fist, your character options aren't all that different from each other, especially when you can lock all character unique weapons for everybody. Sure, some stats slightly change and characters get some unique quirks the game doesn't tell you about, but they don't matter that much in the end unless you plan on going deep into competitive play. Speaking in competitive play in the game Fighting Fruit Roll-Ups, this game rarely sees any events. Before the recent one ended, it was a year and a half since the last event. Not only that, but Nintendo made the full game free to play just for the event to ensure that there would be actual participants in this otherwise stale bread from launch. All that tells me is that lots of people bought this game, but nobody's playing it anymore. And all that says is the game is just not that great. Fun for a little while, but not that great. I also found that you can't even complete your badge collection if you wanted to start playing now due to how badly they were distributed. Screw you, collectors! I certainly don't hate this game at all. I'm not sure if I like it, but it's definitely something I see selling very well, which it did. And then losing all of its audience in 3 years, which it did. That's what you get for playing Don't Cross the Slinkies. This game is in that new category of obnoxiously bright, candy-coated highlighter characters, much like Splatoon and many other kids' games are shooting for today. Which works. It's fine. Environments are lively, creative, and interactive, but something about the look and feel of everything just gives me this odd feeling of not being quite enough. What are you talking about? It's fine. Some of the mini games are so awkward, some environments are just really uncomfortably small, and some characters are just uncomfortable. The game looks fine. Here's what I think about every single character. Crest Toothpaste, Fruit by the Foot, Trying Too Hard to Be Cool, Toilet Paper Monster, Literal Noodle Arms, Trombone from Mega Man, French Bayonetta, Mecha Dogfighting, Captain Short Bus, Flubber, Yo Dog, I Heard You Like Fists, Sugar Flesh, Bob Marley, Mecha Toothpaste, Cartoon Network Villain. The game looks fine! There is absolutely no story campaign. The closest you'll get is a traditional 10-match Grand Prix, giving you points to unlock concept art and other weapons. Some of those unlockables can give you insights into the characters and light lore behind each one, if that's something you're into. If you beat Grand Prix on level 4 or higher, then you'll get a particularly annoying extra final boss, uncreatively called Headlocked. Playing with motion controls, I burst through Grand Prix on my first try until hitting this brick wall. Couldn't even lay a finger on him before he beat my bloody corpse into ground beef due to the finicky and laggy intermittent controls. A pro controller, and that guy would have been toast. Screw me for wanting to play the game the way it was intended, right? If you beat Grand Prix on level 6 and up, you'll fight Dr. Coyle instead of Max Brass. Why these people don't see this coming after every single competition they hold is beyond me. And how Max Brass is supposedly undefeated each time you clobber him at the end is also beyond me. Kim finds it hilarious that the fans and onlookers are all completely normal people in this world. So all that's happening is that we're just making the freaks fight! Let the freaks fight! Let the freaks fight! Let the freaks fight! Let the freaks fight! Yeah. It's dumb. Hey now! Unhummable, bland, and overall mediocre. If you're a fan of fighting games, but you're looking for more of a family-friendly party game, then this is the game for you. Do you have an arm fetish? If you'd rather play with silly and quirky motion controls in a silly and quirky game than get serious, then you'll probably really enjoy this title. Does a slinky walking down the stairs give you a boner? The positive gamer in me actually had a pretty good time with Mr. Fantastic's Punch-Out, giving it a decent 6 out of 10. I fully embrace that this just isn't the kind of game for me, but still, I could enjoy the creative attempts at recreating a generic fighter. The lack of any real enthralling content to keep me playing longer than 30 minutes, however, hurts my final impressions of the game, as I power it down bored and unsatisfied every time. The critical gamer in me isn't sold on Punch It Till It Dies, giving it a bland 4 out of 10. It's nothing special, but it's also not bad enough to be going down in chaotic flames of glory. It's just painfully average for someone like me. Maybe fighting game enthusiasts can love it. Maybe you even hate it. But as for me, I'm unenthusiastically planted right in the middle. But what do you think? Tell us how your positive and critical sides rate Your Reach is Incredible in the comments below. But if you're honestly willing to say that a game is flawed just because it isn't your favorite genre, then you're just playing with yourself. Oh, and in this video, we'll be reviewing ARMS for the Nintendo Switch. Dang it, Bomb! Wait. What was, hold on. Wait a minute, did I see that right? Dude, is that a great sword? No, this is a Sony presentation. What the heck? Dude, is this Monster Hunter? This looks way too nice. No, the swimming? Oh my, is this Monster Hunter? Is this Monster Hunter? Is it? Dude, Monster Hunter World. Holy crap. Capcom's Monster Hunter team has been in a repetitive formula rehashing state for over a decade, it seems. And then they go and do something like this. They go and create exactly what I've always dreamed of for Monster Hunter. Just imagine what other franchises would gain from abandoning their annual cash grab, money grabbing rehashings and focus on creating quality content as well. Now, this is a celebration for Monster Hunter. Let's not go rub it in the faces of greedy corporations who'd rather run their businesses by churning out average quality games as fast as possible in order to milk the dedicated fans and spoiled children for all they're worth. It's sad that a game like Monster Hunter World stands out and looks fantastic for doing exactly what the fans not only wanted, but expected. It's also sad that we don't even need to say who we're ridiculing here since they're so blaringly blatant at these things. You know who you are. The traditional Monster Hunter staple of hunting boss-like monsters to create armor and weapons to challenge tougher monsters, rinse and repeat, still stands here. But this time, there are so many changes for the better, we couldn't possibly list them all. The changes are so substantial, and not only make the game simpler to understand and play, but more fun! Area loading zones are finally gone. Stealth and tracking is introduced. Skills don't need a complicated tally system to simply function. You don't need to craft a new armor set just to use a bowgun. And new elements like monster turf wars add to the living ecology theme the game is going for, making everything feel connected and alive. There's so many little quality of life changes in this game that newcomers might find it difficult to even go back to the way things were. Those changes stop you from needing to waste hours of time gathering, mining, and customizing decorations, adding up to 10. Instead, you're spending more time doing what you bought the game to do. Fight monsters. All weapons return in this game, and also get some new moves to boot, making mastering them and finding your favorites especially fun. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. This game does still have its issues. Though nearly all monsters and environments are thrilling and engaging, a couple stick out as problematic. Oh, come on! This game is so great with so few problems, but no, you've gotta go and stick your nose right in the only few sour spots. It's called a review, Nimrod. Anyway, the nature of the new endgame siege fights are disappointingly grindy, repetitive, bland, and uninteresting. They take what would have otherwise been amazing monster battles and epic final bosses and turn them into one-noted waiting games. Yeah, I do dislike that I can't feasibly play the entirety of the game in single player. I love playing solo, but some fights I'm just forced to play with others. Not everyone has a stable connection or paid online services, Capcom. I admit though, this is one minor gripe. Aside from that, everything stands out as absolutely glowing. Even the events and festivals have been super fun, creative, and engaging with tons of extra free content. The paid DLC Iceborne adds a tremendous amount of content to the main game that you can purchase either as an expansion or get bundled for free with a new copy of World. Wow, now that's how you handle DLC.
This game looks amazing!
It takes a year and a half to load though. Playing on PS4 Pro or PC probably fixes that, but still, it looks magnificent. I love all the new monsters and the armor designs. Oh, don't get too ahead of yourself. Here's how I feel about all of them. Small monsters. Ridley. Pure hatred in fish form. Imagine Komodo dragons, but with paralyzing venom in packs. Mealinks after rehab. Lizard wolves. Pachycephalosaurus. Animal abuse. Diablos' flying doorbell. Gotta have a Drake in each region, I guess. Kermit the Frog on meth. Chicken buffaloes. Shakalakas after rehab. Shakalakas after joining a death cult. They're so fluffy I'm gonna die! Did anyone get the memo that lizards are cold-blooded? Large monsters. Amazing feral T-Rex brute that got even cooler in Iceborne. B-52 carpet bomber. Amazing crossover. Terrible fight. Don't attempt to solo or your Astero will play obnoxious Final Fantasy music until he's slain. Squeaky toy that barfs explosive rocks. Cobra Viper Paralysis Lizard? Yes please. The Gulper Vomit Monster. Mudzeoth. A pure precious boy who must never come to harm. Don't hurt him. The most boring monster to fight in this game. I forgot he was even here. Vicious Ice Wyverns working in tandem. The only new design I find flat out ugly. Seriously, Nergy, you look like you were designed by a 5-year-old. A wicked cool rabid weasel wolf. An incredibly creative and cute bat fuzzball. The colorful flying chameleon. Uragon's sticky cousin. Super glad to see new fanged wyverns like these serpentine beasts. The one that just wants attention, just ignore him and he'll go away. Perfect horrifying combination of revolting and absolutely amazing. Possibly the craziest endgame final boss they've ever made. Further proof that scripted repel the giant monster with artillery to protect the barrier quests are boring. Holy crap, this crossover happened and it's freaking incredible! Something about fighting giant elk monsters feels so right in this world. He looks cool and all, but I'm pretty sure we all would have preferred Zamtrios. Finally, an Ice Elder Dragon, but with some of the dumbest music I've ever heard. You took a dopey and cartoony clown of a monster and made it freaking amazing. How do you guys even do it? The most magnificent deep-sea beast you'll see today. Iceborne's endgame monstrosity that will stare right through your soul. Generic red dragon as the adult form of the amazing Xeno'jiiva in a bland siege quest, giving insanely OP weapons compared to every other weapon in the game. In a single word, disappointing. So some are hit or miss, but overall, this game looks absolutely incredible. After being on portable consoles for so many years, it's so satisfying to see a home console release with all new, incredibly detailed environments, models, and animations. I'd normally make a joke about there being no story in Monster Hunter, but there actually is one this time. The story, however, is a joke in and of itself. It's so much more than the first games. In Gens 1 through 3, you're basically just protecting a village from monsters. In 4, you're part of a traveling caravan on a journey to discover the origin of a mysterious scale. But here, you're part of the 5th Fleet, sent to a newly discovered island so full of exotic new life, they call it the New World. 5th Fleet, New World? They were not being subtle. You and your quest organizer companion, the Handler, are tasked with defeating monster after monster in order to help the newly established colony investigate the new world and survive its many dangers. Let's take a moment to acknowledge that the Handler is the human personification of the word cringe. She's a hateable nuisance to storytelling and destroys any semblance of quality scene setting the writers were going for. Handler is no Guildmarm. But it's not her voice actress's fault. Her written dialogue is just terrible. It's important to note that she's a bigger hit in Japan, where they have a different sense of humor than in the West. I also find it baffling that in a colony of primarily researchers discovering a new environment, everyone's first gut reaction to any newly discovered monster is to kill it. They send you to kill the endgame Iceborne monster before a single researcher has had the chance to even confirm that the darn thing even exists in the first place. Yeah, okay, the story is pretty shallow. Just because this Monster Hunter has fully voiced cutscenes and connect the dots narrative doesn't mean the story's good. Or even halfway passable. But hey, it's nice to see them actually try and write a story for a game that was beginning to stagnate to begin with. Monster Hunter's music is always awesome, but the fully orchestrated themes of World are just incredible. But some of the main monster themes like Velkhana and Nergigante just sound dopey and stupid. Seriously? Why do they choke on the flagships, but the rest of the game sounds sweet? The returning monsters even got remade music fitting the high level of quality the rest of the game puts forward. The themes of each environment are also quite impressive, even when you're not fighting a huge monster with its own theme. I particularly love the Guiding Lands music. Isn't it nice when a developer can be consistently relied upon to create stunning musical scores to help set the appropriate scenes for their games? Do you think boss fights are the best part of a game? This game is all boss fights. If you've played any of the earlier titles, consider World the true Monster Hunter 2. Everything else in comparison just feels like minor patch updates, gradually modding the original. If you were even halfway interested in playing a Monster Hunter title before, there has never been a better time to jump in than right now. This game is a clear example of developers deeply caring for the quality of their content and creating a magnificent product as a result. Now, why is that so hard to find? The positive gamer in me is so proud of the Monster Hunter team for their outstanding achievements with this title. I can give it no less than a perfect 10 out of 10. The sheer number of improvements from the previous games is staggering, and the game benefits to such a high degree due to these changes, it makes looking back difficult. Now that's franchise reimagining done right. The critical gamer in me still loves Monster Hunter World, but feels bad for getting hung up on its few pitfalls, still giving it a solid 9 out of 10. The few gripes I do have with this game are all in newly added ideas, which of course can't be expected to all be perfect. But the fact that the team is willing to try out new things for the sake of fun gameplay is what makes me look past them for the sake of the whole. And the whole is outstanding. But what do you think? Tell us what your positive and critical sides think of Monster Hunter World in the comments below. But if you can't see what's to gain from trying out new ideas and reimagining old franchises, then you're just playing with yourself.
Or Game Freak.
Yes! It's time for another Metal Gear Solid. So what am I in for this time, Colonel?
About that, Snake, you won't be needed for this mission.
What? But the fans will be outraged. What's a Metal Gear Solid without Solid Snake?
God, my girlfriend is so annoying.
Don't you even start! Alright, well, this game looks and plays a lot better than the last one, that's for sure. But there's nothing wrong with Raiden. I know, it's not that. Something else about this game just feels hollow in comparison to the first Metal Gear Solid, right? Because this one's still amazing. Well, it's a lot of things, actually. Oh, come on, like what? Gameplay doesn't feel right. It's jerky and janky compared to the last one. The last one was designed for top-down exclusive gameplay, whereas MGS2 incorporated first-person shooting. But you can't move in first person, making the disorientation from camera jumping even worse and more frequent. Not to mention, you'll see things differently in first person than overhead view, and some threats will just come out of nowhere. It's still a stealth-focused game, acquiring new weapons and mission tasks as you progress, so at heart, it's still the same game. But something still doesn't feel right. It's not the unforgiving, awkward nature of the PS2 stealth either. But once you get the hang of it, the controls feel pretty good. It also helps knowing where all the guards are to hold them up and collect their dog tags. Some segments have you running blindly towards the screen Crash Bandicoot style, blind to any upcoming threats, or angled strangely so you can't see things waiting around the corner to kill you. Somebody sounds like Raiden with all the whining they're doing.
Don't you dare go there.
Just compared to the last game, it feels like the life got drained out of the world. Bosses are cool, but don't play very well. Stealth feels weird and doesn't feel as good to play as before. I can't put my finger on it, but something's just not right. By the way, do you know what day it is today? Shut up. We don't talk anymore. You can't just keep pushing me away. You know what? I'll give it to you. I can't isolate why I'm not loving the gameplay. It's fine. But you know what I think the real problem is? The game just doesn't look good. Okay, now to be fair, it's from that in-between era of games where they weren't blocky anymore, but they didn't really start looking believable yet either. It's not even that. I can get past that and understand that. But the game is just washed out and colorless. Everything looks plastic and dead, especially the emotionless and bland codec. Now come on, be fair here. It's a PS2 game, way ahead of its time for using detailed face and body animations to tell a complex story. But some codec calls can put you to sleep, if the color palette didn't already. This was even before the brown era of video games, so you could say that people were possibly copying the look of MGS2 to try and make their games look just as good going forward. Okay, maybe you're right. It's honestly not bad or anything. I'm just trying to figure out why this one feels like a big empty shell. But you want to know where this game definitely shines best? MGS2 has an absolutely incredible story.
Really?
I wasn't too impressed with about half of it, honestly. You've gotta be kidding me! People are still writing essays on how MGS2 predicted and showed us the dangers of a world dominated by computers and artificial life. They're also still talking about how it might even be the best Metal Gear Solid story ever. Well, they're forgetting the real slog of an eventless first half. The story doesn't really pick up until a certain character, I won't name here to avoid spoilers, dies. And even then, you're just given an enormous exposition dump. That's not how you tell stories. But it was amazing! I was absolutely losing my mind at the time, freaking out about how crazy it all was. Which, by the way, you can see in my complete Let's Play series, shameless plug. I'll give you that this script would make an amazing novel. But as a video game, the story does not match the pacing the game requires for a satisfying, balanced gameplay experience. But it needs to be a game with all the crazy fourth wall breaking moments happening later in the game. And as the story could only work in this altered history universe of Metal Gear, it's great! But some things are just stupid and go unexplained until MGS 4. Like Liquid Snake somehow living inside Revolver Ocelot's arm? You're overblowing this game. But Jack, you won't see me for the woman I really am. I don't want to just be demoted to nothing more than Jack's girlfriend. You're my girlfriend now? You've just been playing with yourself this entire time. You know what might be the real problem with this game? Let me guess, it's the... Yes, the music. Or lack thereof. Listening to the soundtrack, you'll hear all the crazy new tracks that were made just for this game. Yeah, and instead, for 90% of the game, you'll be listening to ambient silence. And during a stealth game, that's a recipe for inescapable boredom. Some themes like the boss themes are awesome. That doesn't change the fact that during the vast majority of this awkward, janky, colorless snooze fest, you'll be listening to nothing but your life wasting away. Dude, listen to the actual soundtrack. It's amazing. I am so conflicted. If you played the first Metal Gear Solid and still haven't played this one, you've got to check it out, no matter what people are saying about it. This feels like a parody of Metal Gear Solid, with a monumental theoretical doctorate level thesis to absorb at the end. There's so much to say about this game, but it's all better left unsaid, just so you can experience it all for yourself firsthand. Naggy Girlfriend Simulator. The positive gamer in me loved MGS2, giving it an outstanding 9 out of 10. No, it's not the original, but looking back at all the insane, mind-blowing moments this game brings forward justify it all for me. This game was even fun enough to replay and collect all the dog tags once I finally got good at sneaking around. So don't listen to that other guy, he doesn't know what he's missing. The critical gamer in me struggles to come to terms with this hollow feeling I get from MGS2, reluctantly giving it a 7 out of 10. Nothing about the game stands out as having poor quality, but everything seems to converge in the end, resulting in a generally underwhelming and bland experience. It's not bad at all. It's great. But don't be fooled by that other guy overblowing the game. Who's right then? Let us know in the comments below how your positive and critical sides rate Metal Gear Solid 2 in the comments below. But if you find yourself simply ignoring the faults of a game or exaggerating them unjustifiably, then you're just playing with yourself. But Jack, you didn't even thank the Patreon members. Don't you care about them? You never show me that you care anymore either. Notice me, senpai! Shut up! Hey, Hamster. What's wrong? I'm so conflicted. I want to play Metroid Samus Returns again, but I've 100%ed all 3 files on all 3 difficulties. If I want to play now, I'd have to erase a file and commit to 100%ing that difficulty all over again. I just can't do it. Well, that's a good sign that the game was great, isn't it? Why don't you just play another Metroid game? I've played them all several times. Well, at least you got Metroid Prime 4 to look. Don't you bring up that striptease of a game around me. I've had that game pre-ordered since 2017, and I still haven't seen anything more than a logo. You've got a problem, don't you? How's about I pick out a game for you in the meantime? That logo still haunts my dreams. This game is pretty bizarre. Good bizarre? Yeah, definitely good bizarre. I'm honestly struggling to describe how I feel about it at first glance. I thought you'd like Hollow Knight. It's an indie Metroidvania that's become an instant hit by the talented group Team Cherry. It is certainly filling the screw attack shaped hole in my heart, that's for sure. Super Metroid except longer. In an open 2D platformer, you'll explore vast environments, challenge bosses, and discover useful items and weapons to help you progress through your journey. That's exactly what I just said. Okay, well, opposed to Super Metroid, you'll acquire many unique and interesting power-ups, both having their uses in battle and in platforming. But that is Super Metroid! Oh, crap. The bosses are really tough, requiring several attempts in order to learn their patterns and exploit their own weaknesses. Super... Oh, shut up! Combat is predominantly melee-based, with your tiny little nail dealing all the damage. The nail can even be used to bounce off enemies and hazards by attacking down with good timing, adding to your toolset for exploration. Defeated enemies will also give you soul instead of straight-up healing or ammo pickups. You get to choose then whether the soul will be spent on energy tanks or missiles. Wait, health or magic. So you basically decide through battle whether to tough it out and stay aggressive, or when to pull back and try and heal. But as we mentioned, this game is really hard. Your character, the Knight, will slowly and incrementally improve over time, but the game will throw increasingly difficult challenges your way at a much faster rate. So it's up to you to be the one who's actually improving your own skill faster than the game to compensate. You can also customize your character with charms, the upgrades that you're finding along your way throughout the journey. Your charm loadout does change your character strategy pretty substantially, but you'll have to choose wisely as you only have so many slots to keep them equipped. I was amazed with how long this game was. With loads of unique bosses and ludicrous amounts of post-game content, this game always has another crazy achievement to acquire. Like Soul Steal mode, where you can only die once before the game is over? Just imagining beating this entire game in a single deathless run makes me shudder. You think you should correct your initial generalization of the gameplay? It's Super Metroid, except Dark Souls. Super Metroid, except bugs. It looks nothing like Super Metroid. Yeah, you're right. Just bugs. The game actually looks amazing with fully colored, hand-drawn characters, enemies, and environments. Except bugs. Just think of all the illustrations that would need to be created in order to even get a single enemy animated properly and fluidly in a game like this. Then multiply that by the ludicrous amount of content in this game. It's incredibly ambitious. That's true, but something's bugging me about it. Wait, what though? Oh, you did it. Oh, I can't believe you would sink so low as to make a bug pun in this video. That's it. Come on, give me the controller. Come on, hand it. Come on, you lost your chance. Come on, give it over, bug boy. Well, this is a nice change of pace. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, the story. Hollow Knight's storytelling is very low-key, opting for drip-feeding you lore about the world as you explore, as opposed to directly telling you about what's going on. Honestly, this is ideal for a Metroidvania. The player gets just enough pieces of the puzzle to chew on while they explore the vast environments and try to make sense of all the disorder. And it's because you keep chewing on things that you ended up in that chair. What does that even mean? Okay then, smart guy, how about you explain to everyone the story of Hollow Knight? Well, you're, not really, man, it's so hard to say anything for certain about the story. You're the last spawn of a king from a lost time on a journey to destroy the pestilent plague like orange corruption stuff across the land and destroy its source. But that's not even entirely true, I think. It's a weird game. The minimalism in storytelling is artfully told well enough to give you more questions than answers. Like whether I'm supposed to be critical and you're positive, or if I'm critically attempting to be positive and you're positively faking being critical. Wait, what? There's only one thing for certain. What's that? Bugs. The music in this game is magnificent. I have almost all of it saved to playlists on my computer so I can listen to it as I work. The soundtrack flows great with gameplay, giving the proper scene setting ambience during exploration and fear and power to boss fights. I'm really bummed I couldn't be blasting it during my own playthrough because you'd hear it doubling in my own microphone. Speaking of which, you can see the game in its entirety in my massive 57 episode Let's Play series, shameless plug. You know, I particularly love the sound effects and combat noises you hear as you defeat enemies and clash weapons. It's so satisfying to see a terrifying foe fall to your tiny, under-equipped character. They all got what was coming to them from messing with Little Squirt and his mighty toothpick. If you haven't played this game yet, then allow me to entice you further. It's massive, it's incredibly fun, it has a beautiful art style and soundtrack, and it's nearly on every single modern platform. The free DLC added provides even more insane challenges to overcome, giving you countless hours of extra gameplay. Or you could have better things to do with your time, like me. If you're a bang for your buck kind of player, this game's an absolute steal for how many hours you can pour into it without even realizing where all the time went. Okay, now follow me here. You awake in a strange land nearly devoid of all life. You're journeying across a deadly cavern, slaying everything in your path in an apocalyptic world, but everyone and everything is an insect. Because bugs, I guess. The positive gamer in me had a blast with Hollow Knight, giving it the highest of honors with a 10 out of 10. Every aspect of this game left me fully amazed, and even though it was all so full and satisfying, with tons of hours spent exploring and fighting through the world, in the end, I was only left wishing for more. The critical gamer in me had an outstanding time with Hollow Knight, but still finds reason to give the game a strong 9 out of 10. Some players will be put off by the difficulty that the game demands, and others could be excluded altogether from the intense DLC gauntlets the game puts forward. The time investment is all that's stopping me from doing all of that myself, which makes me personally look right past it. But with this strong of a challenge, some players will be put off. Regardless, the overall performance of the game is absolutely stunning. It's funny that in the beginning you weren't playing a game because you ran out of things to do, but now you're no longer playing a game because you're having too much to do. And that leaves me as a player much more satisfied in the end, knowing that I can always go back and have more. Anything less just kinda bugs me. But if you get too wrapped up in what other people think to just have fun with a game, then you're just playing with yourself. Hey Hamster, so for this review, I was thinking of announcing the video and then not actually releasing anything for about a decade. Oh god, what is this, Kingdom Hearts 3? No, that wouldn't be long enough. I still smell Square Enix. Or maybe we should announce the video and show little snippets of it and then completely change everything about it years later. Oh, I definitely smell the Squeenix. Even better, let's split the video up into an untold number of segments to be released with an untold number of yearly gaps in between. The Squeenix is strong with this one. Wait, Final Fantasy VII Remake finally came out? I thought this day would never even be allowed to happen. Well, to be fair, the original game is huge and would take an insane amount of time to faithfully remake, so this is actually part 1 playing through the events of Midgar. The front of the case doesn't even mention that, so that's kinda false advertising, but regardless, lucky me, that's about as far as I ever played in the original anyway. Wait, why? It's considered to be one of the best games ever made. The combat felt more like I was fighting the menu than the monsters. The story was long and slow and full of tons of reading. I just kinda lost interest. Hey, well, hopefully this remake can fix your original problems with the game while still somehow satisfying the longtime fans of this classic. I just want to see Cloud in a dress. So you had some issues with the gameplay back on the PS1, but how does the remake play? Hamster? It's perfect. Oh, don't oversell us. I know you're not even a big fan of Final Fantasy to begin with. Then let me try and recap all the changes. For one, the combat is action-based instead of turn-based now, but it's still got a really inventive time-based system called ATB, so the game still feels like the original. I love the idea of ATB. You build up charges by attacking and you can spend them on what you would normally be using turn-based actions to do, like using items or materia. Something about the combat itself just feels awesome. Each character plays so unique with tons of weapons and abilities to customize that gameplay always feels fresh no matter the style or situation. Each weapon has its own skill tree to further customize each variant option of each character. With 6 unique weapons per character, that's a ton of options. I also got lost in menus in the original a lot, and with all this upgrading, you'd think that it'd be hard or confusing, but it really isn't. Materia even naturally levels up to stronger materia as you fight, so you don't even need to swap as often. You can seamlessly swap between characters in battle and issue commands with their ATB during a near pause slow-mo mode, so you get more time to think, but also can't wait around forever just like in the original. But your allies won't fill their ATB very quickly if you don't jump from character to character frequently, so play as whoever is best for the situation without neglecting your backup, and don't be surprised if you lose because you only fought as Cloud the entire time. So, is there anything we don't like about the gameplay? Well, some ATB attacks can get annoyingly interrupted. Like when you need Aerith to cast a quick Curaga, but she flinches mid-cast to a monster's attack. The ATB is gone, and your ally is left unhealed. Even worse, your ally gets killed during Aerith's spell windup, and she still casts Curaga, wasting both her ATB and her MP on a corpse, doing nothing. I understand how that's annoying, but imagine how OP your team would become if your ATB wasn't depleted on attempts like that. You would constantly break the game with constant attacking and healing. Right, and actually I like the difficulty where it is, so honestly I don't really have any gameplay complaints at all that don't just come off as nitpicky. Even when it turned into a dance-off rhythm game to convince someone to turn you into a woman. I didn't realize how badly I needed Cloud dancing in my life until I had it. Now, this department I feel weird about. Some segments look absolutely stunning, whereas others are totally willing to shove a low-poly flower with torn textures in your face for an unsettlingly long time. Now, come on! Though the game is only covering the events of Midgar, it's predominantly cut short in order to make sure that the characters and environments look absolutely stunning. And let me assure you, they do. Some segments I'd run through and catch a glimpse of a disgustingly messy corner with disappointingly unpolished edges and bland textures stretched to the limit. You do realize how long this game still is, right? They couldn't possibly have every nook and cranny that most players will blow right by, taking up valuable resources. I even remember some bits where the awe of looking at the massive city expanse of Midgar and wondering how it's all being rendered so well was shattered, because I noticed low-resolution pixels in what I thought was the magnificently modeled view was actually a low-res skybox. Do you even hear yourself? I'm just saying some parts needed a little polish. Look, the characters, environments, combat effects, motion capture, user interface, and even the vast majority of background details most players would glance right over all look spectacular. Except for the SHUT UP! I hope it's not unfair to say here, but compared to the original, the mere addition of fully voiced characters turned an otherwise long, tedious read into an entertaining cinematic movie. Since this is just Midgar, they really buffed the original story, adding tons of side quests and extra boss fights. Our playthrough clocked over 40 hours in the end, and there's a ton of extra post-game achievement hunting still to go for. Oh, and in case it wasn't already evident, you should check out our playlist of live streams showcasing the game in full, shameless plug. Even if you know the original story, there's so much new stuff added, fleshing out the original cast with side quests and extra missions that you'll find a new appreciation for this game. Keep in mind though that this is still only part 1 of who knows how many. There are some new elements introduced, not even in the original, that are not wrapped up at all in this installment. The game does an outstanding job, however, in making you really care about its characters by giving them all plenty of time to develop and grow in the world around them. I'm really impressed with the no-name characters and sideshows who got a lot of development like Jessie and Wedge. The facial and other motion animations and great voice cast help sell the effect that these are all real people. It helps a lot when your game looks this nice as compared to PS1 graphics, especially when looking at the suffering bystanders from Shinra's malicious plots. The end does add some very strange and seemingly shoehorned segments for the sake of having a climactic final boss at the end of this part, but I was honestly having so much fun, I was glad that it happened. Hold on, we didn't actually say anything about the story. Mr. Blonde Bedhead bounces between being awkward around women to blowing up power plant reactors. Well, I mean, it's a JRPG, so you're probably all familiar with the accumulate party members and adventure around the world defeating enemies and main villains song and dance. The true battle of length versus girth. And if you were concerned about the remake dulling down or even removing all the silly humor from the original to fit the modern Final Fantasy themes, don't be. It's so stupid and I love it. If you're a fan of the original, you'll lose your mind over this soundtrack. There's so many versions of some popular tracks you'd otherwise hear over and over just to keep things fresh for each situation. And they're all great. I want to take a moment to point out that the voice cast for absolutely every character is perfect. When voicing someone from a game that has no voices at all, it's hard to find that perfect sound that we all heard in our heads for the characters when reading. The fact that you hardly even notice the voices standing out is what makes them fit so perfectly, as they all play their characters in a way that makes them come alive. I'd love to have the full soundtrack on my computer, but a certain game developer never watched Barney enough to learn that sharing is caring. This is easily the game of the year for me. And it has nothing to do with a certain virus preventing the rest of the competition from even releasing anything. Just think about this. Cloud needs to wear a dress, and Don Corneo still needs to choose him over the dolled up Tifa and Aerith. If you even remotely enjoyed the original, this remake will blow you away. 2 words. Fat Chocobo. The positive gamer in me had high expectations for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but was still somehow blown away with it, giving it a perfect 10 out of 10. This coming from someone who's not even a huge Final Fantasy fan, this game's gameplay, story, character direction, graphics, soundtrack, and overall presentation left me wanting nothing but more. And lucky for me, this is only part 1. The critical gamer in me fought long and hard over whether to agree with my positive side, but begrudgingly decided on giving Final Fantasy VII Remake a 9 out of 10. It's definitely solid. It's easily one of the best games on the console. And though my problems were minuscule and nitpicky, holding this game to high standards only gives me hope for an even more impressive experience in the upcoming games. But what do you guys think? How does your impression of Final Fantasy VII Remake hold up to the original? Tell us how your positive and critical sides rate the remake in the comments below. But if you've become so nostalgia blind to believe that the original is still superior to this modern masterpiece, then you're just playing with yourself. Hey, finally! I found a copy of Bayonetta 2 for the Switch! Hold up, it's a new copy, right? Yeah, this way we've actually got a code to download the original Bayonetta before we play the sequel. You have no idea how many used copies I passed up just to get my hands on this original game. But hey, we can finally play it! I mean, people love this game. It must be great, right? Better be worth all this struggle. What the hell's going on? This is amazing! I'm so confused! Holy crap, what did I just play? Relax, big guy, one step at a time. How's the gameplay? Okay, so it's a hack and slash game with some stupidly fast-paced action sequences thrown in the mix, because whatever. Dude, this game is a total mess. It's amazing. I can tell you right now, the Joy-Cons were not the way to play this game. I even tried my GameCube controller, but it only seemed to make things worse. No matter the controller, the angel attack minigame at the end of each level is still unwieldy and awkward, but still stupid. And I like stupid. The difficulty options are just as chaotic. Normal is pretty darn difficult, but easy is a total joke. There's no enjoyable middle ground with this game, at all. Or maybe I just suck at it. You'll spend most of your time bashing angels away with various guns and even swords strapped to your hands and feet. You can even attack with your hair, punching and kicking enemies away with your own hair, which is also your clothes. Shelving that for later, I do actually have several problems with the gameplay. Too frequently, the game hits you with an unforecasted insta-death quicktime event, unfairly killing you and harshly affecting your score. Or maybe I just suck. Nah, those did come up suddenly and only give you a blink of an eye to react. A lot of the game is like that. It flip-flops from super easy to breakneck unforgiving. I found some fights that were absolutely destroying me, I would suddenly massacre without taking any damage on a second attempt. And I'm pretty much just mashing the buttons here. Yeah, I'm pretty confused by the game's questionable unpredictability. It seems to just keep changing the rules on things without telling you. Seriously, this game just goes and doesn't care how you feel about it at 200 horsepower. I also felt like Halos, your currency, were always in low supply considering the ludicrous prices Rodin demands for the smallest of things. I guess the game's made for more grinding than blasting through a single-player story campaign. As far as the gameplay is concerned, I find the game to be pretty darn quirky and intermittent. As far as gameplay is concerned, I think it was fun enough to finish, but also just off-putting enough to discourage me from continuing it on most days. Yeah, weird game. Okay, I'm super torn here. Half of the game looks great, but the other half is super off-putting. I think the angels, the creatures, and boss designs are all solid. They're creepy, but also vibrant and organic. They're all designed in a way where you don't feel bad slaughtering them by the hundreds. And then there's the human characters. I can see they were going for super elongated anatomy like some fashion illustrations, but in 3D, it looks gross. It's indescribably disturbing, especially when they want Bayonetta to look attractive. Like, sorry, no. Yeah, when a little kid doesn't even stand up to your knee, your freakishly long spider body is kind of disgusting. No matter how hard they tried though, I always thought it was a joke. Until I looked up the creator's input online. They were serious in wanting her to be sexy. I hurled. So aside from Bayo's gross monkey arms, the game's also blanketed in one of the thickest brown filters I've ever seen. It looks like literal crap. It is originally an Xbox 360 title, originating from that brown era of games, so I'll give it a pass. Even though it's probably the thickest filter of brown I've ever seen. Cutscenes are all over the place. Some are animated normally like you would expect, and it's fine. And then some random cutscenes are just taking still frames and these awkward film lines trailing across the screen, and it seems like they were trying to make some sort of artsy move, but it just came off as unbelievably lazy. Those bits were scattered around just enough for me to forget about them and then get re-disappointed all over again. Although they did lazily replay some cutscene clips over and over again for exposition, the other cutscenes were just fine. But come on! What about that hideous anatomy? The fact that they honestly thought Bayo looked attractive drains so much of the humor and the ridiculousness of it all. But the angels and bosses look pretty sweet. What about the brown, man? The brown! It's so brown! You're a witch, and you kill pretty much everything. Yeah. If anything was a total mess with this game, it was the story. I've got a feeling that this game's not about the story itself, but instead about how it's told. When you put it like that, the story is absolutely crazy. The action sequences are also ludicrously over the top and comically pushed to the limit. You can't help but have a great time with it. However, there are long stretches of the game where I was honestly unsure if the developers wanted it to be funny or not. Sometimes they take themselves too seriously as a joke, and other times they take themselves too seriously because they think it's cool. I'm so confused. I lost track of how many times we said those words. The only thing that you can be certain about with this story is that it makes absolutely no sense. I don't even know if the developers wanted that or not. There's mountains of lore and books to discover and read up on while you're playing. However, it all seems to be taking this all so seriously, I question whether I'm playing the same game. The opening sequence got me pumped like I was playing the weirdest crossover where No More Heroes, Devil May Cry, and Sailor Moon converged. Then the cutscenes were replaced by screenshots. And the game's story turned into a strange combination of halfway finished 3D animation homework meets Nicolas Cage reading a phone book. In all seriousness, you're a witch awakening from 100-year imprisonment, fighting your way through the ranks of enemy clan minions, working your way up to the top to stop their plans to destroy and recreate the universe. Everything else either doesn't make sense or doesn't matter. Okay, this might finally be the only section I can confidently respond to. Yeah, it's pretty weird, but it fits the over-the-top action-y style of the game. Yeah. Some tracks have some serious style to them and just make you want to kill angels with some crazy and classy moves like the super violent torture devices. Uh-huh. And hold on. What were you gonna say about the music? I thought you were finally certain about how you felt about it. I am. Half of it is pretty one-note and forgettable, but the rest is pretty fun and upbeat. It's okay. It's just okay. This game is outrageous. If you're a fan of over-the-top action, then you'll enjoy Bayonetta. Lanky Kong straps guns to his arms and legs and goes on a killing spree. I can certainly see why some people love this game, but also why some would just pass it right by. It's at least worth giving a try. Oh man, this game's hilarious! I think. Is it supposed to be funny? It's supposed to be funny, right? Because this segment's going on a little long. Okay. Never mind. They're definitely taking this seriously. Forget what I said. I feel kind of bad that I laughed. I wonder what they're even going for in this game anymore. No, it's definitely funny. Wait. The positive gamer in me enjoyed the craziness of Bayonetta, giving it a 7 out of 10. It's alright. The gameplay is okay. The visual design has its moments, and the music is decent. Though this game does have a lot of downtime and pitfalls that hurt my overall score, but hey, a 7 isn't bad. The critical gamer in me wasn't impressed with Bayonetta, giving it a lousy 3 out of 10. Awkward gameplay, awkward art styles, and narrative direction all amalgamate into this mess of a game. I still have no idea how the developers wanted me to feel about this game. But when it comes off as an unfinished rush job, no amount of over-the-top action can fix the damage dealt to my final impression. Wow! Opposite scores! I have no idea how to interpret that. And that about sums up this game perfectly. But what do you think? Let us know how your positive and critical sides rate Bayonetta in the comments below. Whether you agree with me or that other guy, if you can't put your problems aside to just have fun with a game, then you're just playing with yourself. Or you've just got really weird taste in women.